since your name came out into the open by way of Hope Not Hate recently, if anyone was to search your name, you can find that you were 7 years ago giving, what's the right word, speeches on the Reformation in Exeter Cathedral on its 500th year anniversary, as well as in conversation with people about the ethics of care. So how did you come to hold this view and end up on this sworn mission, and why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, I've been on a very strange journey for some time. So, I spent the better part of maybe almost a decade in academia. I did my undergraduate degree at Exeter in the Southwest. I did history. Then I went to Cambridge and I did social anthropology. Then I went to Oxford after a brief hiatus and did medieval history, read for a PhD or DPhil in medieval history. I wrote about the Reformation. But it kind of became clear to me actually when I was doing the DPhil, although I really enjoyed it, I enjoyed doing the research and it was, one of the great things actually about doing a PhD is that, especially in the humanities or the social sciences, is that you actually get a lot of time to yourself. I didn't have much contact time. I didn't have to go to lectures if I didn't want to, didn't have to go to seminars. I was well organized and motivated, so I was doing the research and it was all fine. So I had a lot of time just to read. So I was just reading a lot and, reading things that I wanted to read that weren't necessarily anything to do with the project that I was doing. But it became very clear to me actually that I didn't want to be an academic. So I made a few kind of half-hearted applications as I was leaving, as I was sort of heading out the door. I needed to do something. I needed a job. I fell back into some literary type work that I had done before I did my PhD. I got offered a job as a history master at a private school in Sussex, which I didn't want to do. And then the pandemic happened, and I had been lurking around on Twitter. Following Bronze Age Pervert in particular. So I sort of was brought to Twitter by Bronze Age Pervert, by Bronze Age Mindset, his self-published book that has caused such a stir. Was recommended to me very early on, actually, after its release by Amazon. I think because I'd been reading Nietzsche, I think that's why it was recommended. But I bought it, even though it looked very strange, and read it and thought it was great, and started following Bronze Age Pervert on Twitter but not really doing anything, just sort of following along in the background. Anyway, at the beginning of the pandemic, now I began this metamorphosis into the Raw Egg Nationalist, an anonymous Twitter poster, posting about health, about fitness, and the relation of health and fitness in particular with politics and the health of the nation. I've got quite a deep background in health and fitness. I was a martial arts instructor in my late teens. I taught kickboxing. I've always been fit. I've always taken care of myself. But I got into lifting weights in a big way, before the pandemic, maybe a year or two before the pandemic. And I was thinking about the politics of health and fitness, and that's actually a big part of Bronze Age Mindset as well. In the book, there's quite a lot of interesting stuff about the relationships between political attitudes and health and fitness, and why it's absurd. There was this thing called the swole left. I don't know if you saw that. There was this funny thing where about sort of 2016, 2017, then these various different outlets were trying to push this idea that actually leftists need to work out. They need to, if they want to bash the fash, then they need to work out, because actually, it doesn't do the left any good for them all to be, like overweight and unhealthy and disabled and all this kind of stuff. And so yes, I was thinking about this stuff, and I was just kind of posting in a humble way. But I wrote a cookbook in the summer of 2020 called Raw Egg Nationalism in Theory and Practice, Cook Good with the Raw Egg Nationalist, which I posted first as just a free PDF, and then as a self-published paperback on Amazon. It eventually became a hardback cookbook as well, a coffee table cookbook. And things just started to go crazy from there. And I was in a Tucker Carlson documentary in 2022, The End of Men, with RFK Jr., who is now Secretary of Health and Human Services, one of the most important cabinet positions in the US government. So, I think that my posting as Raw Egg Nationalist and writing as Raw Egg Nationalist, because I write for various different outlets, newspapers. I write for the Spectator now. I think that my writing is an extension really of attitudes that I've held for a long time. But I think, especially with the pandemic, then they really kind of crystallized the political facets of health and fitness just can't be denied now. I think in the past it was much easier to dismiss health and fitness as ephemeral concerns, and why would anybody care? Why would it be a political issue? Testosterone levels, for example. Well, now obviously it's impossible to deny with the pandemic, but also the Make America Healthy Again agenda and all that kind of stuff. I mean, testosterone was actually a political issue during the US election. I mean, it was actually a dividing line between the Democrats and the Republicans. So I think that my writing has proven to be pretty timely. I think. I mean, it's been influential as well, and I'm followed by JD Vance on Twitter, which I still find very funny, and he periodically gets attacked for that. But so it's been a strange journey. But I think, I'm pleased to be the Raw Egg Nationalist, and now I'm actually just writing as myself because my identity has been revealed. I'm much happier to be doing what I'm doing than what I was doing at Oxford. I would far rather just be writing about the kind of things that I really want to write about, rather than following a kind of narrow academic career, writing for decades about the Reformation and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it's been a funny journey, really funny journey.